Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first Grow Globally Fair that's had an in-person component since 2019. And I know Jeffrey Garza Walker has been asking for this and pushing for it, and so thank you, Jeffrey, for your continued support. Everybody know Jeffrey? You can give him a round of applause for sure. So I'm Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Change.
Recording in progress.
The recording is in progress. And so there is an audience that we have around the world, so thank you for joining us. I know some of you, a couple of you are speakers, and the rest of you are watching. We're here in Thunderbird, School of Global Management. Global Chambers right down the hall here, and we're here in the Global Forum. What does everybody think of this room? What do you think? Pretty amazing. So this event historically has been done, it's actually been done for about 15 years, way before Global Chamber. Global Chamber's 7+ years old. And the first time we did it was with the old Squire Sanders law firm just down the street here, and they've become Squire Patton Boggs, and still a member of Global Chamber, one of the original members of Global Chamber and an ongoing member of Global Chamber. We started doing this event at SkySong, that were all in person, no virtual component. COVID came along, we did it for 2 years completely virtually. Pretty dry, not really great to do this type of an event just virtual. Much better to get together with people. And so this year we've done a hybrid event. And I was wearing my mask earlier. Is Susanna here? Susanna, do you have it? Nobody has a mask on. Yeah. So I thought I would wear a mask. If she comes in the door, I promised I would wear my mask as well. I just found out that today is not the International Day of Peace. So I swear to God, for 6 months ago, I scheduled this event tonight because I thought September 20th, we're going to do it on the International Day of Peace. Is it? Okay, I had no idea. I see, I got you. In Malaysia, in Sarawak, Malaysia, it is the 21st, and it is the International Day of Peace. Thank you, Winnie. So, because one of the things that's inspired me over the years has been Debra Allen's amazing events. Has anybody been to one of those International Day of Peace that Debra has done? I know Winnie must have gone to it, right? Because it's largely real estate folks. And so for those, I see Laura raising her hand. So I had no idea until Debra invited me, and it was like, wow, this is amazing. And so the whole feeling about it really reflects Debra's positivity about the world, which I think, in fact, I know all of you share as well. So Debra, could you come up here? And we've got a couple things that we just want to talk about, because today in the world, and James, if you're hearing my words, if we could shift to that image, that would be awesome. Today in the world, it's weird out there, right? It's just kind of strange. And one of the things that has kind of kept me going the last 2 to 3 years, and maybe the last 5 or 6 years, has been the global tribe, what we call the global tribe. The global tribe within Global Chamber around the world are people that are honest and truthful and professional and respectful, and they don't just say stuff just to get in the news. They're doing business with each other, and to do business with each other across borders, you've got to be able to negotiate and speak gently and listen and work through things. And boy, wouldn't that be amazing to have everywhere in the world? And so that was kind of my thought process around combining this event with the International Day of Peace, because I was so inspired by what Debra has done. And James, are you hearing me? Could you put that picture up? Oh, I'm sorry? Oh, I have to do it. Okay. How about that? Thank you. User error on my part. So when was this?
This was 2019 when we were able to have our last in-person International Day of Peace.
I think I see Laura in the front there, don't I?
Yeah, she was there.
Yeah. Is there anybody else here that's there? That's it?
I think that's it. There were a lot of people that came. These are just some of the people that wanted to get into the picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Laura, you're originally from Kenya, but my wife is Greek. That's a very Greek outfit you have on
No. There is a Greek woman there in the picture.
Okay, Faye, where's Faye? Where are you? Doesn't that look a little bit Greek to you? Not so much. So, okay, no, I try to deal with those kinds of things on a day-to-day basis with my wife. So, Debra, I wanted to ask a couple questions. What inspired you to start the International Day of Peace?
So I come from a very different cultural background. My mother is Chinese-French, Irish-Italian, and my father is Israeli-German. So I always felt culturally misunderstood. I grew up in Germany, lived in Singapore, in Spain. And then when I came to America, I just felt like people only wanted to know what my race was, instead of getting to know me. And I always felt like culture is something that connects people. So when I came up with the idea of doing the International Day of Peace, I asked everybody to do a booth from a certain country, display some of their food, some of their heritage, and breaking stereotypes. Because I feel like you asked me what my race is so you can put me in a box, so you can then determine if you want to do business with me or you think you understand who I am. And that really was the beginning of the event and why we did it.
So true. That's I think another thing that's happening right now, that there seems to be a group of people who want to do that and isolate and almost be afraid of people that aren't the same. They dress differently, they look differently, they eat differently, and those of us in the global tribe, that's why we're in the global tribe. That's why we like international business. We want diversity, we want differences. And so to see a group of people that, quite honestly, I don't see how they can proceed, because I don't feel that in the American spirit. I haven't felt that more broadly anywhere in the world either. They're just not going to win. And I certainly, before the night's over, I want to definitely encourage all of you. You're all good people. And, sometimes it's hard to stand up to those people, but I encourage you to do it, because we got to fight here. We gotta fight for what's right. And it's more than just fair and equity, it's good business. For those of us that do business, we know that a diverse team is a good team. It's an innovative team. And I felt that when I was running a joint venture in Japan and I was the only foreigner. And I felt pretty weird, about how lack of innovative we were, because there was like one different person. In fact, there was a gender thing too. It was all men and one foreign guy. So we know here in America that probably really the difference of why we're good is because people want to live here and they want to be there. So thank you for inspiring such good activity. Before we move on to the next speaker, I was curious, what was the greatest experience that you had in the years that you've been doing it? What kept you going? What was something in your heart that you saw and experienced and you wouldn't mind experiencing again?
The biggest thing I would say is when people come up to me and they want to give me a hug and just tell me, thank you for doing this, I feel heard, I feel seen. And for us just to be a little bit kinder and to listen more, it can change everything.
What are you doing these days? What should we know about Debra?
I spend a lot of time just doing a lot of, I'm really into my spirituality right now. I hug a lot of people, I listen more, and it's about communication and forming real relationships.
Totally with you. Thank you, Debra.
Thank you.
we're gonna shift to Ukraine here in a moment, but I do want to mention one more thing about this topic. At Global Chamber, that's kind of been something that came to me 7 or 8 years ago, and fortunately, there's just an amazing group of people in this room and around the world that understand that global business is good. People like Hank Marshall and so many of you that have inspired me to keep going with Global Chamber. So thank you so much for all of that. In addition to Global Chamber, one of the things that's happening now is that Cesar Trabanco, who's my partner at Global Chamber, and I are writing a book called Global is Good. So thank you. So I have 10 books that I've been writing for the last 20 years, and finally this year it was like, here's what we need to write. And so Cesar and I have started this book with the goal of getting this out in January, and so watch for that, but it goes back to the story and starts with a young woman who didn't really know international business was that great or didn't really understand the value, but she ends up learning a lot from a lot of different people and take her on that journey. That was a lot of my inspiration, was a young actually South Korean lady who wanted to work in South Korea, asked me if I could introduce DuPont Korea, and they said no, women don't work in business in South Korea. It's just not acceptable. So that wasn't that long ago. That was my first experience with that kind of a thing. And beyond what we do at Global Chamber in growing business, I think all of us have an opportunity to impact the world in other ways, including that women can work in business. You know, that's a good thing, and a lot of other people can as well. So I think the next might be me. Do I need to do something here to go to Igor? Let's see. So I do need to, James, you'll need to let me know. I thought the Zoom part would come up automatically. How about if I go here? No? I could play it, but oh, I wonder if this is it here. No. I could do the talk about the Netherlands, but I would like to get Igor here. Oh, you're looking really good there, Laura. Help, help. Oh, there he is. So the next conversation is a really important one, and I think it builds off of what we've just been talking about. And it looks like it might be going. So let's listen to Igor Novikov, advisor to President Zelensky in the Ukraine. And we can't hear it. One little glitch. We'll get through. I'm sorry? Okay. So Cesar, can you hear us? You want to get that kicked off? Cesar is in Puerto Rico. You might have heard that some things happened there the last couple of days. Here we go.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for inviting me, Doug. So first of all, a small correction. Luckily, I wasn't blessed or cursed with the dinner with Rudy Giuliani. The dinner was with Eric Prince. Rudy, I've just heard on the phone a lot. Yeah, luckily had to deal with him from afar. So yeah, but anyway, so back,
it'll all be in the book, I'm sure.
It will be at some point, yes. So but anyway, back to Ukraine. Yeah, the war is changing yet again. First of all, I mean, you might have heard on the news about a certain counteroffensive that our military has conducted in northern Ukraine, in the Kharkiv region. It was a beautifully executed operation, not only in military terms, but also in terms of keeping it secret. I mean, like, not only have the Russians fallen for it, a certain Tucker Carlson kind of literally hours before the counteroffensive properly started was going on about how Ukraine is losing this war badly and needs to make peace with Russia and everything. So, yeah, just kind of bear that in mind. By the way, him and his guest, they actually called Kharkiv, a city, besieged city in northern Ukraine, Kharkov. That's the way Russians call it. So, you know, here's your first clue. But never mind. So the counteroffensive happened. I mean, caught everyone, including the Russians, by surprise. I think they're still kind of trying to get over the shock of that military defeat. And, you know, we're following closely, you know, their domestic situation. And at the moment, you know, Putin's got himself in between, you know, the hawks and the Russian, so-called Russian liberals. So everyone hates Putin now, which is good for Ukraine. But look, I mean, the main message here, the war is far from over. I mean, we've liberated a lot of territory, but, you know, we still have plenty left to kind of to fight for. So the war isn't over, and it's getting more dangerous because, first of all, there are two factors at play here. First of all, Putin, you know, at some point will grow desperate, and that's when we're going to see not only strikes against our critical infrastructure increase. I mean, we're already seeing strikes against like our power plants and, you know, water distribution facilities and stuff like that. And so he's attacking civilians indirectly in that shape and form. But as he grows more desperate, you know, we're going to see the barbarity of those attacks increase rapidly and dramatically. Whether we're going to see, you know, nuclear strike, that remains to be seen. But, you know, he's not a very mentally stable dictator. So, you know, I wouldn't discount that possibility completely. So, you know, that's the first factor why the war is growing ever more dangerous. The second factor is that, you know, the winter is fast approaching. And, you know, part of Putin's warfare plan is to make sure not only Ukraine, but Europe goes dark and cold. So, you know, he's using energy as a weapon. And that's, by the way, one of the reasons he's attacking Ukrainian electrical grid, is to destabilize our exports to the EU. So, you know, he's withholding gas from them on one hand and trying to withhold Ukrainian electricity from the European Union as well. So, you know, it's a vicious war, and it's going to be a very tough winter for the Ukrainians and for the Europeans. But I think we're going to make it through. Now, we've kind of spoken about this privately with Doug before in terms of what could be done for Ukraine. So I would focus everything on three separate tracks. So track one is, you know, our quest to kind of remain on the news, to be remembered, you know, the attention war. Because I think, you know, the less people mention us, the less people remember us, the more barbaric and vicious Putin gets. And, you know, unfortunately, this war is beyond cruel at the moment. I mean, everyone's now following what's happened in Izum with, you know, those exhumation works happening and, you know, those dead bodies and, you know, secret burial sites being found in torture chambers. Unfortunately, there's a Bucha, there is an Izum in every single occupied city, in every single, even the smallest of villages. I mean, that's the way Russians play it. They don't even hide it anymore. It's a war of genocide. So what gives us strength, what keeps our army fighting, what keeps us motivated is the fact that we are remembered. You know, we're winning the attention war. And that's where we need all the help that we can get. You know, the second track is, let's call it the political track. So obviously, as the winter approaches, as the war drags on, you know, a number of Western governments will be under pressure from their electorate, basically saying, like, look, you know, we heard too much at the gas pump, or, you know, our apartments are way too cold this winter and everything. Let's just kind of make a deal with Russia. Who cares about Ukraine? That will be a very dangerous situation. And, you know, politicians will be tempted, you know, to kind of to give into that pressure from their electorate. Plus, we shouldn't forget that, you know, the ultra-right radicals, you know, are also kind of there, you know. Just look at what Orban is doing in Hungary. By the way, hi Tucker Carlson again. So I thought I'd mention him since I mentioned Orban. You know, here's the other clue. But anyway, so we need to keep the pressure on the politicians alive. You know, we need to give them support if they're supporting Ukraine. We need to protect, you know, those pro-Ukrainian Western politicians from the ultra radicals, you know, on the especially from the right, and also we need to kind of protect them from the electorate. We need to explain to people that, like, look, you know, it will be a tough winter for everyone, right? But you know, if we give in to this dictator, you know, this chaos that he feeds upon is only going to spread further to the Baltic states, to Europe. You know, he's going to try and destabilize your midterms, then your presidential election in 24. He's going to be, you know, scheming with China. I mean, we're finding Chinese munitions on the battlefront. So China is secretly helping Russia, you know, with weapons. Iran is doing it openly. And, you know, those drones are causing a lot of damage to our military forces, you know, those Iranian drones used by Russia. So, you know, we need to support Western politicians who are supporting Ukraine. That's important. And the third most important track is material help. So obviously we need the weapons and we need them fast. Like, look, we have shown time and time again that Ukrainian military is more than capable of beating Russia, of defeating Russia, winning this war. So in effect, the West controls, you know, the time kind of factor of this war. So the sooner we get the weapons, all the weapons that we need, the sooner this war ends and the sooner we win. So, you know, any delays are under your control, not ours. And that's an important distinction to remember. But apart from the weapons, we also need economic help. You know, Ukraine's been majorly disrupted, as you can imagine. Our planes aren't flying here. You know, our critical infrastructure is constantly under attack from those cruise missiles and, you know, Russian artillery and so on and so forth. You know, businesses have been disrupted. There are plenty of refugees. So, you know, obviously it's not business as usual for the Ukrainian economy. And we need to survive it, because this war is not only being fought on the military front, it's also being fought on the humanitarian and economic front. So if our partnership, if our alliance kind of survives this winter, we stand a very good chance of beating Putin. If we get the weapons, if we stand united, despite, you know, Putin's best efforts to kind of to divide, you know, the West and to divide Ukraine, to divide your country domestically as well. So my message is simple. Remember Ukraine, stand with Ukraine, keep helping Ukraine. You know, we're paying in blood for our joint future, not only for our future, but for yours as well, for the future of your kids, so that they can live in a democratic and free society, you know, that where democracy is upheld, where, you know, human rights and basic human values mean something, where nobody cares about your skin color or, you know, your gender, your sexual preferences, you know, what you say, about your freedom of speech, freedom of press, you know, just freedom to be human, you know, that compassionate and united society, that technology that we have at the moment in the world allows us to build. You know, it's realistic now. And this is the last stand against that, you know, regurgitated evil from the past. So drawing this war, you know, or losing it is not an option. This war has to be won at any cost. So my message to you is a message of gratitude and a plea for help, a plea for support, a plea for you to kind of to have that courage and that stamina to stand with us up to that victorious end. And hopefully, you know, one day, you know, Doug and I will be recording a message like this, and it'll be Ukraine's Victory Day. So, you know, I'll be smiling and, you know, telling you funny anecdotes of the war. So
rebuilding Ukraine is what it will be about, and that's coming soon. Just one quick question on trade and Prime Minister Modi and his conversation with Putin, and how, you know, India continues to trade with Russia, but on the other hand, many other countries in the EU have pulled together to cut off economic aid. Any advice on the trade side as well?
Well, look, I mean, trade-wise, I mean, same rules apply as to weapons deliveries, right? You know, the more lifelines we give to Putin, the longer this war lasts, the more danger we put the West in. And, there's a lot of talk about designating Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism. But, I have a different opinion on that. From what we're seeing on the battlefront in the occupied territories, from that humongous civilian death toll, and the fact that they don't shy away and they're even proud of like killing kids and women and elderly. Russia is not a state sponsor of terrorism. They are a terrorist. Now, sponsors of terrorism are the businesses, the companies, and the countries that, despite everything they're seeing come out of Ukraine, that keep trading with Russia, that keep providing Russia with, that lifeline of finances to kill more kids, to make it last longer. I mean, so I think, look, it will be incredibly painful, incredibly disruptive to the global economy, but there are two ways we can approach this. We can either continue this slow suffocation process and risk everything, because it's going to take a while. Putin will get more desperate by the day. We increase the likelihoods of, nuclear strikes and everything. Or we can just, disrupt him swiftly, by just saying, no, we won't trade with terrorists. We won't deal with terrorists. I mean, look, it's simple. If Putin loves his history, right? So let me give you a historic analogy. I mean, it's like trading with Nazi Germany in 1941 and 42 and 43 and 44 and 45. Just think about it. Would your business do it? Would your country do it? And look, India is being pragmatic. They're trading, yet they're calling, Prime Minister Modi said that, Russia should stop the war. Now is not the time for the war. But unfortunately, it's not enough with Russia. Putin doesn't respond well to rhetoric, to logic, to rationale, to anything. The only thing that works with him is power. And so far, we are the only ones physically pushing back against his aggression. And therefore, if we want, the evil to be defeated, obviously seize all trade. There are other places in the world where you can make profits, and plus, I mean, it's risky dealing with Russia. If whatever you do, I mean, there's no guarantee that this country won't, will fulfill its side of the promise. It's part of the contract or whatever. So one day you can wake up and your business will get nationalized if you still have presence in Russia. Why? Because you're an American company or an Indian company and their prime minister said something wrong, right? So, it's like sitting on a volcano, potentially, one day it will erupt. So, the sooner you kind of approach, rethink and review, your business connections with Russia or Russian allies, the more risks you hedge, basically.
Thank you for your courage and your defense of liberty and self-determination. Best of luck and safety to you and your wife and your daughters and to Ukraine. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
So yeah. Grow Globally Fair is all about opportunity and staying positive. Tough way to start it, right? In terms of a group of people that are going through hell and back. And so I thought, though, it was important to share. Daniel, are you there? Daniel Zaretsky is the global advisor for Global Chamber in Uzbekistan, in Tashkent. Interestingly enough, Tashkent is the largest city in the world, number of Russians, that is within the trading world. Moscow, St. Petersburg out, right, because we can't trade, and Tashkent is number 1 in the world. Thank you for joining us, Daniel. What time is it there?
Thank you, Doug. You hear me, yes?
We can, yes.
Good. God bless the better Wi-Fi in Uzbekistan. It's still not great, but it's come a heck of a long way from where it used to be. So right now it's 5 a.m. in the morning, and I actually didn't sleep, and I have an event at 9 in the morning. So after this event, I'll get a few hours of sleep, but everything's okay here.
Appreciate you joining us today. We only have a couple today.
Right.
But it's tomorrow there. What opportunities are you seeing based on what you heard from Igor or what you're seeing there on the ground? And I know you were in Kazakhstan as well in the last week or so. What opportunities are you seeing for the global tribe?
Okay, so I'll just go quickly here. I'll just say just a quick Central Asia. There's many definitions of it, but we'll call it the five stands of Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. 65 to 80 million people now. All countries have doubled their population in the last 20 or 30 years, and the way they're going, they're going to double soon. So Uzbekistan is 35 million people now, and before we turn around, we'll be 50 million. And what Doug mentioned, so Moscow and St. Petersburg are 1-2 in terms of population in the former Soviet Union, Kiev 3, Tashkent 4th. So right now, Tashkent is the capital of the former Soviet Union, it seems. Just to say that geopolitically, Uzbekistan is neutral. It does not border China. It's at least 1,000 miles from the border of Russia. It does border Afghanistan, but that's a very well-defended border, so I see no issues there. Uzbekistan has a fairly strong military, the only military in the region. So this is pretty open right now, pretty friendly to everybody. And what I would say is, particularly Uzbekistan only opened up 5 years ago, whereas Kazakhstan opened up in the 90s to the world. So we're in a boom situation here. Tashkent is really booming in many areas. Every time you come, you just see tremendous changes. Real estate is huge. They say here, if you invest $1 million, you get 2 million back. So you can see the construction everywhere. Hotels, housing developments, business centers, malls, etc. But again, this region is underserved by franchising. This is a region that only opened up to the world 30 years ago, and as I say, Uzbekistan only 5 years ago. So there's a lot of the next 5 or 10 years in Tashkent in Uzbekistan. This is, to me, one of the places to be in the world. A lot of low-hanging fruit, a lot of stuff that's been done elsewhere in the world years ago. It still needs to be done here, and we've already missed 5 years. So the hotel franchises have all come in. So last few quick points. Also, tremendous privatization is occurring now. 21 state enterprises are going under privatization, including Uzbekistan Airways, which, by the way, has a direct flight to New York. New York to Tashkent, 12 hours. One of the big interesting things that you see in this whole region, you see it in the Caucasus, in Georgia, in Armenia, and Azerbaijan, definitely in Almaty, Kazakhstan, where I just was, in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, in Tashkent, and even in secondary cities like Samarkand, is since the war started, loads, and well, Ukrainians have certainly come, loads of Russians, IT professionals, young people. So there was a tremendous exodus of Russians when the Soviet Union fell apart in the 90s, out of Central Asia into Russia. And now it's kind of a move back. So there's loads, I see it everywhere, people coming, opening up bank accounts, getting cards because their Russian accounts don't work. Many people came to Tashkent initially after the war from Russia, thought we're going to move on to Europe. They like it so much they stayed. It's good. It adds to the cultural mix, to the human capital. Uzbekistan is actually actively recruiting these guys. There's an IT park. They've come up with a special IT visa for foreigners, not just for Russians. But it's bad for me too, because I got to rent an apartment and the prices have doubled. And it's doubled everywhere in Kazakhstan, in Uzbekistan, and so on. They said that this summer all the hotels were full with Russians, and I've seen certainly tons around as well. And I'll make one or two last quick points, Doug, and you cut me off whenever you want. I'm not offended. Is this the Russian language was every year decreasing to the point where I said in 20 or 30 years it might be finished. But there's been kind of a, how shall I say, with this Russian influx, the Russian language it's still important. If you want to do business in Central Asia, the #1 language to know for at least the next 20 or 30 years is Russian. More and more people speak English, of course, especially the younger generation, but I think this is going to keep Russian going maybe a bit more as well. So, but the bottom line before I wrap up here is the region is pretty safe right now. The region is, especially Uzbekistan and Tashkent, is really booming. It's one of those places in the world that only recently opened up. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. There's a very good young demographic coming up. So I think this is one of those places in the world where there's a lot of opportunity in many sectors to do a lot of things in the next 5 or 10 years that were done somewhere else 50 years ago. So I'll leave it at that now, Doug, unless you want me to say anything else.
You're amazing. Thank you very much. Daniel Zaretsky, Global Advisor for Global Chamber. We're now going to shift over to EU and the Netherlands, and Odette Baker is going to be now speaking about the Netherlands, EU, and the view from that side of things. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Igor. Odette, please.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me well? All right. Well, as indicated, my name is Odette Baker. I'm the Honorary Consul for the Netherlands, but I'm also working for the City of Phoenix Economic Development. So I'm here with 2 hats on, my Dutch hat and my local hat, and it's a lot to juggle, as you can imagine. I was asked to say a little bit about the European Union. Just as a quiz, how many countries are there in the European Union? Just shout it out. 26? I hear 26. Any others? 28. It's in the middle. It's 27. Not everybody is using the euro. The Swedish have opted out. And I believe there's another country, Croatia, is in the process of transitioning into the euro. It was founded in 1992. To me, it seems like many more years ago. The idea came right after World War II, but it was 1992 that it was founded. All right, so the State of the Union, how is it going with the European Union? And luckily for me, I could just summarize what the President of the European Union just used in her speech on September 14th. Ursula von Leyen, she is the President, and she gave a pretty somber speech on how are we doing as European Union. The first, as you can imagine, that most of her speech was about the war in Ukraine, and one of her quotes is that the sanctions against Russia are here to stay. She also mentioned in that regard that, and that's an interesting quote, I think, the Russian military is taking chips from dishwashers and refrigerators to fix their military hardware because there are no semiconductors anymore. So, from my perspective, that's a good thing. The second one, we have to decouple. What do we have to decouple? The dominant influence from gas on our energy prices in the European market. And it's no surprise that this war has really had a significant impact on our energy market. Number 3, we must make nature our first ally, and it has directly related to that as well. All of our green energy sources have to be utilized, and the transition to green energy needs to be sped up. Number 4, a new reality of higher public debt. I think It's no secret that there's always kind of like a tension between the northern states and the southern states, and this, where we're at right now, will have an effect on public debt. Number 5, actually was interested when I read about what she meant with that, also eradicate corruption at home, has to do with how democracy is being affected these days by the spread of disinformation. And so that's a global problem that people from elsewhere in the world are funding the spread of misinformation on locally. And then this last one is to rethink our foreign policy agenda, having to do with connecting and aligning with those who are in favor of democracy. That being said, the European trade with Russia by product group, this is an old graph, but as you can see that the big component compared from 2011 to 2021, the biggest export product from Russia is still energy. And as you can imagine with the sanctions that the European Union made up for Russia, for European countries that no longer to import into Russia or export from Russia, and the response from Russia to that has a huge impact on energy. And I believe that from the European Union, Germany and Italy are hit the hardest with the energy crisis. All right, let's talk about the duchies. That's where I'm from. As you can see on this graph, the relationship between the Netherlands and the USA is pretty significant, but let's just give a little bit of background information about the Netherlands. It's the gateway to the European continent. As some of you may know, it's just between Belgium, Germany, and the United Kingdom. It has the largest port in the European Union, which is Rotterdam, the second largest airport, which is Schiphol Airport, and it's the 5th largest economy of the European Union. For such a tiny little country, which I'll show in just a little bit, with 17 million people in it, that's pretty significant. 5th largest exporter of goods in the world. No, I'm not saying that right. For the European Union, 4th most competitive, 2nd largest agriculture exporter, which is mind-boggling, but that's a world number. Imagine, small country, 2nd largest agriculture exporter, and 2nd most innovative. And as a mother of 2 kids, I'm most proud of the last one. We have the happiest kids in the world. And that has to do with the chocolate sprinkles that we eat on our bread. Hank knows about that. Foreign direct investment from the Netherlands into the USA is over 600 billion. Reading glasses on. And American companies have more than 800 billion invested in the Netherlands. $47.4 billion in goods and services imported from the Netherlands, and $76.9 billion in goods and services exported to the Netherlands. Those are big numbers. So, what are we good at? Well, needless to say, we're good at the agricultural component, agri-tech, with big companies, even here locally, as ASML and ASM and XP or Semicon, healthcare, biomedical, sustainability and circular economy. And the relationship between that is that with such a small country, we have such limited resources, we have to be really smart with our resources. So circular economy is really front and center. Same as smart mobility, high-tech systems, cybersecurity, aerospace, smart cities, and renewable energy. Let's see, let's go to the next slide. I have little time, so I'm flashing through my slides. This is kind of like this, if you look at this photo, it kind of says it all. The Netherlands is this small compared to Arizona. This is a good comparison as far as size, and there's 17 million people living in that little small space. We have strong economic ties. The Arizona's export of goods to the Netherlands is $805 million per year, and import of goods is $369. We have the 5th largest export partner of Arizona and the 9th largest import partner. And Arizona, the Netherlands trade creates about 13,500 jobs. Companies locally that I've just mentioned that are of importance are ASML, NXP, Randstad, Royal Dutch Shell, and various large and small-sized businesses. And not only that, there are companies that have headquartered here in Arizona that have a presence in the Netherlands, such as Avnet, On Semicon, GoDaddy, Isagenix, Phoenix NIP, and so forth. All right, my last slide, it's a small plug also for the city of Phoenix. This is the other hat that I'm wearing, but I do want to make sure that you guys know how to find me and how to utilize my position there. What we do is we really want to make sure that companies locally are able to thrive and grow, and if they have expansion plans, that they have everything that they need. So our little division, which is the business retention expansion division, will help you to have one single point of contact if you need help with your business needs. So come find me afterwards if there are needs in your global facing business that you would like some help with. Come see me and we'll set up a meeting so we can help you with some things. And that is it. And actually this photo is from the village that I was born and raised in. So this is like 5 minutes from my house. Questions? Any questions?
Do you have a question, Hector?
Sorry?
Hold on.
Related to Queen Wilhelmina?
Well, of course, no. Yeah, our queen, our previous queen, Beatrix, her mother's name was Wilhelmina, and I was named after my godmother, who was named after her. But I did meet the queen 2 weeks ago, so that was a big honor for me to meet our Dutch queen. Any other questions?
I'm back here with one of your bosses. What does it feel like to have Odette as part of the consular corps?
I think she can do everything I can do, but I'm sure that I can't do much. Congratulations.
She's awesome. One more question.
Any other questions?
I feel like Connie wants to ask a question. Do you have a question,
I'm
Bernie?
sorry I
No?
raced
Okay.
through all of the little factoids. There's so many that I have written down, but
Thank you very much, Odette.
Right.
Really appreciate it. We're gonna try to make up some time because at the end of this, there's 3 pieces, right? There's the Grow Globally Fair, which we've done. We've done these series of presentations, and the editing clearly was a little bit longer than I expected, but it was powerful. So we're gonna go a little bit faster through this because we're not gonna miss Doc Jones, at 6 o'clock upstairs. So we're definitely gonna make sure that we finish way ahead of that. So we're gonna go fairly quick, and that's a tough chore sometimes with Hank, but we're gonna ask him to go quick. What do you think? Okay, do you want to use this or do you want to use this? Okay, go ahead. Are you sure?
Hold on a second. I was going to save this to the end, but I'm going to do it at the beginning. So, Doug wears his costume all day long, and Halloween is coming. And everybody knows that I give away socks every year, 500 or 1,000 pairs. There are plenty of people in this room that have got socks. I can see them smiling. And he's old enough to remember Ghostbusters. So, Doug, here's your Halloween costume. Okay? You're welcome. And Odette wasn't kidding. I went to boarding school in the Netherlands, and I can remember coming home after having spent time there, and we would come home with this orange box of this licorice delicacy. And I know it was supposed to be put on things, but we would eat it right out of the box. And I know I can't pronounce it properly. It's Gestompte Close enough. It's Gestompte. And I still get my fix from her. So every now and then I get this little orange box that takes me back to those days. So I'm going to be real quick.
Not to divert to what he's actually talking about. However, Hank is here to talk about the International State of the Metro, which happened a few weeks ago.
August 24th.
Yeah, and Hank was instrumental in putting this together. This is one of the things that Global Chamber is all about. Other than we're everywhere and we have amazing people all around the world, it's about opportunity and growing business. And one of the really key things that is really important is that we recognize the importance of global business. 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. Hank has been instrumental in getting the city of Phoenix, the state of Arizona, and the communities here to work together. And so thank you, Hank, for all that you do there. What was your impression of the International State of the Metro this year, especially when you think about like 8 years ago?
So again, before we get started on that, I'm killing a couple more minutes. We wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for this man. Okay? Now, I've known him for a long time, probably dating back to the Jurassic era. I mean, for you and me. And I'm not kidding. But I remember when he indicated, this was what? The first incarnation of this was ASIG?
ASIG.
ASIG. Okay, this is really going back a long time. And it's morphed into this. And I remember at one point when he said, I'm going to be in 550 chapters in how many countries?
525 and 195.
And I think everybody laughed. Like, there's no way. Well, guess what? He made it happen. And, no, they are. So congratulate him for that. But he started back in 2011. You started the notion with Rod Miller, right? With the notion of a report card.
Rod Miller was the first one, and one of the things that you brought it to it was the report card. And in fact, the first time you did it was at Dirt, and you had like a dirty report card and said, the dog ate my report card or something like that. And it was partially because Rudy Vedder, prior to that, had maybe given a little bit too positive of a review, and Hank said, hey, that's way too positive. I want to do the report card, and I want to give a real assessment. So you did.
I guess I did. And we're now, this year was the 9th annual report card. We were fortunate to have Susana Tresente, who is not here today. I understand she's here online, or she indicated she was going to be here virtually. And not only did she do a great job with the report card, but she upped the game. Anybody who was there saw that she had spent an incredible amount of time digging into the statistics, digging into the research to back up her rating. A lot of us that came before her, it was probably a lot more subjective. We were applying our opinions, what we thought it was, and jokingly, yeah, I created this yellow dog-eaten report card one year to add some levity to it. But she took it to another level. And I have to call her out on that because we're very fortunate that next year is going to be even better. And I say that because Sanjeev Kagram, who is the dean of Thunderbird, where we're at today, correct? He has offered up 4 students for the person doing the report card next year. So that level of research, data, and understanding of Arizona can be lent to that report card. So expect that report card to get better and better. Okay? Thank you to Sanjeev for that. And I'll close by saying why, and I mentioned this at the International State of the Metro, why a report card? There's a famous person, you may know the guy, Peter Drucker. He had a famous saying that if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So I think fundamentally the report card serves as a way for us to measure how well we're doing, what needs to be done, where are we not doing what we should be doing. So it's important to have that report card. It sounds like a joke, it sounds kind of fun, but in reality it has a purpose. And if we're going to get better as a region, we need to be able to look at what we're not good at and improve. And let me close by, I think, reinforcing something that you said, which is we're not going to get better as a state or as a country in isolation, okay? Our success as a region, as a country, is tied directly to the success of everybody else that shares this little blue planet with us. Okay, this is a ride we are all on. And I'm proud to be part of the chamber, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you. The report card is a wonderful thing. We're going to keep it up. And again, thank you for being you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Could you stay here for a second?
Yeah.
So we only have about 30 seconds, 60 seconds maybe for our next speaker instead of 5 minutes. Bethany, are you there? Bethany Bennick is with Greater Phoenix Economic Council. She probably has an announcement she'd like to make. and probably better to have her do that with you. So we don't have a lot of time, Bethany, to talk about more broadly, just to say GPEC is amazing. And you are amazing in terms of the work that you've done, not just for the city of Phoenix, but for GPEC.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I will keep this brief. I have quite a few factoids, but always happy to connect afterwards if folks are interested. Ultimately, I'm here to talk about foreign direct investment and the impact it's seen here in Greater Phoenix. Over at GPEC, we've recruited 95 international companies over a 32-year period, generating about 15,500 net new jobs. And I know with this audience, we don't necessarily need to go over why FDI is important, but ultimately it creates competitive jobs. It generates federal income through corporate income taxes. It provides economic stimulation. It drives export and growth, and it develops competitive human and resource capital that is absolutely vital to a competitive economy. So with the landmark TSMC project generating 1,900 phase one jobs and a supplier network of over 50 domestic and international companies, we are well on our way to becoming the global city that I know we all aspire to be. So I'll stop there, and I will just say, I apologize I can't be with you in person today. I know many of you there in the audience from some of the camera angles that have been provided throughout, but I did want to share that unfortunately I will be leaving the Greater Phoenix market, not because I don't want to be here, but because an incredible opportunity has arose for me, and I will be joining the U.S. Commercial Service over at the Department of Commerce International Trade Administration. So looking forward to remaining connected and seeing Greater Phoenix continue to thrive.
Thank you, Bethany. Thank you for all your work. Do you want to say anything?
No. Watch out for the next superstar. She's on the rise. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you, Bethany. We're going to keep moving, and I'm gonna hold off Ricardo and also Matthew. Sorry, and we'll kind of run through you fairly quickly. But Jevin is here, and I wonder if you could come up, young man, and also Jim Ratcliffe, Jevin Hodge, who's running for the U.S. Congress, and Jim Ratcliffe, who many of you know. Thank you. And so he's busy, and he's running, for his life and for our lives, and to protect us. And so, Jim, I think you had a couple tie-ins from business to what Jevin is doing, and then Jevin, please go ahead.
Thank you, Doug. It's a great honor and privilege to be here and to introduce my good friend, Jevin Hodge. One of the key words I want you to think about in terms of tie-in with international and global is protectionism. You may have checked, but the current incumbent in what is old Arizona CD6 was the author behind the Trump tariffs, the Sugar Act. And to give you some idea of what it does to international trade, a major export of Arizona is pistachio. It went from 100% to China to 0 in 1 year after the passage of a tariff. Tariffs, the point is, there are winners and there are losers when you have tariffs. And to go back to Doug's comment about a democracy, the democracy's foundation is not a world of winners and losers, but rather, and it's not even competitive, self-driven competition between people of different interests. There is a moral core. There is an ethic to democracy. We heard it today from Ukraine. And that is people who run for government, people who go into government, do so to be stewards of the public interest, to help people fulfill our destiny. And so our job is not just simply to create competition in business, but also create a world where people can have a great life, happiness, and so forth. Jevin gets that. And so I'm privileged to introduce Jevin Hodge to you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
Global Chamber, thank you so much for having me today. I deeply appreciate it, and thank you for your leadership and being on the front lines. My name is Jevin Hodge. And in the interest of time, I'm going to keep us on time and keep this very short here. I'm the Democratic nominee in Arizona's 1st Congressional District. And just a little bit about me. I'm an Arizona native, born and raised here, son of a single parent, and I love everything about Arizona. Growing up, time weren't always easy for me. Affordable housing, food stamps. We didn't have a car until I was a sophomore in high school, but because of hard work and perseverance, we were able to get ahead. By day, I'm a business leader. I have grown a social communication and strategic communications firm nationally and internationally. I'm the president and longest running Head Start here in the great state of Arizona, and someone who's going to fight and be on the front lines to protect our interests and to expand our global partnerships. When you look at the halls of Congress, you have individuals that are working every single day to tear down what we have worked so hard to protect and to preserve. And we need leaders that are going to be on the front lines, that are going to fight for access to high quality health care and ensure that we are fully funding education and attacking the climate crisis head on with 21st century jobs. And you just look at some of the recent initiatives that have gone through the halls of Congress, and most notably is the Semiconductor Chips Act, bringing investment here to the Valley, the TSMC plant. That's exactly right. The TSMC plant is going to be one of the greatest investments that is going to move Arizona forward into being a global partner and to being a global leader on economic development. And we need more initiatives like such that is going to attract high-wage jobs to ensure that our graduates have a place to land here in the Valley. And so you have someone in me that's going to be on the front lines fighting every single day so that we can increase the quality of life and inspire economic innovation here in the Valley. And so it is a great honor to be here with you all. If you would like to learn more, you can go to jevinhodge.com. But thank you for your leadership, and thank you for all that you're doing here to support the Valley.
Thank you, Jevin. We're now going to go over to Japan. Matthew Kyle, I know you had a time constraint. Matthew Kyle is with WeConnect. He's going to give us a brief review of what's going on in Japan and Asia and some of the opportunities there. Matthew, besides being a brilliant business person who operates all across Asia and Australia, also did a little time with the New York Knicks. Can you imagine a 7-foot-tall foreign fellow taking the subway in Tokyo? That's Matthew. Matthew, thank you for sharing today. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Doug. Yeah, really great to be here. Really honored. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So thanks, Doug. Thanks for entrusting me to update everyone on content that, well, more than one content that is quite big. I mean, Asia is a big deal. 60% of the world's population is here. Almost $1 trillion in investment went into startups in 2021 here. As arguably one of the most, the most affordable tech town in the world. Huge demand for consumer goods. No surprise, GDP growth in Asia was #1 in last year and projected to be #1 this year. So for any foreign business, and I really want to make this update from the perspective of opportunity and what is happening here that maybe you could take advantage of. If you're anywhere, Asia should be at least in the back of your mind. So I'm going to speak to two people today, people that have kind of an idea for Asia, maybe for their business, and people that may not have an idea for their business in Asia. First, if you have an idea and you have a plan of attack for Asia, typically, you need people on the ground to make it happen, at some point. And so, a typical regional headquarters in Asia are like Singapore, Australia. These two countries often are entry points to Asia because doing business, talent concentration, investment activity, innovation activity, straightforward regulations, and great government support are high there. And Singapore is also known for being kind of corruption free. Though, if you do have particular opportunities in a country, going straight into that country is also an option. An example of that is like in Japan. So if you're a software company or especially enterprise software, Japan is very welcoming to you. Japan is welcoming to anything that it openly admits it isn't good at, which software is one of those things. While less welcoming to more traditional industry disruptors, like disrupting hospitality, like hotels, a la Airbnb, or just transportation, taxis a la Uber. They had a rough go in Japan. But yeah, I mean, generally just talking about, for those that have a plan for Asia, Singapore is quite interesting. The amount of government support there is incredible. It really stretches back all the way to 1819 when it was a British trading port, founded as a British trading port there, and really, kind of separating itself from the rest of Asia in terms of being just straight from the beginning, inclusion. Everyone's equal. Everyone has a fair shot at building their brand, their business. And it stretches all the way until today. I mean, if you look at the Economic Development Board website, there are schemes and incentives and grants abound to reduce, corporate tax at 0%. If you build regional and global finance functions there, you can reduce your corporate tax as well. There are programs to bring innovative companies to Singapore, VIP status. If you're an established tech entrepreneur, leader, technical expert, you can come and get your individual visa, no problem. There are research schemes, training grants, intellectual property schemes. They just announced last month on August 29th, there is a new visa for people that want to come and kind of change the world. If you kind of take in 30,000 Singapore dollars a month in revenue or income from multiple sources, you can come and set up in Asia. So Singapore is interesting. If you have a plan for Asia and Singapore doesn't necessarily make sense for you for whatever reason, Australia is another good option. They have more of a white glove approach to helping companies. Not as formal of a plans as Singapore does, but they have a kind of commission called Austrade. Australia is not just focused on tech; they have the natural resource industries too. There are tensions with China right now. There's a ban of coal and wine exports to China, but Australia's startups team is continuing to grow, and sub-government divisions like Invest New South Wales and other regional governments are doing their part to support homegrown startups and imported startups. So, there's a lot of opportunity there. To do a update on China, to do an update on Asia, it's hard not to talk about China. One of the biggest recurring news stories is the kind of like the relocation of manufacturing out of China. Manufacturers really realized diversification on supply chain was very much needed. That was exacerbated by the COVID pandemic. There's some U.S.-China tensions and various import and export taxes. Some examples of this were, Apple moving all of its iPhone assembly to India from China. Samsung moved smartphone, TV, PC lines to Vietnam. Samsung is 25% of Vietnam's GDP, so they did something there. HP, Dell, and other tech firms plan to relocate up to 30% of their productions out of China to Southeast Asian countries. There are some bank runs on regional banks in China. Some concerning news is property market crash, arguably. GDP growth wasn't where it was supposed to be, and all this will have effect in the global economy and inflation. So, still a lot of opportunity in China. If you have particular interest there, bringing product into China. I mean, generally China, sometimes if you don't kind of follow China, you're not on the ground. Sometimes people get a skewed view of China. In my experience, if you're doing business there, you're following the rules, there's plenty of opportunity. And generally, if you're doing business there, they're not going to give you any hard time unless you break the rules. So, China is still a huge opportunity given its population size, and et cetera, et cetera. China, there aren't as many, VIP red carpet grants and schemes. That's more on the province level, and you kind of have to negotiate those province by province. Indonesia, for those that may not realize.
Hey, Matthew.
I'm sorry. Yep.
I think we're going to have to keep moving, man.
Okay, sorry. So, there's a lot of opportunity in Asia, and generally, if you don't have a plan, there are also plenty of cohort opportunities. So you can go to accelerators, and they'll match you with corporate companies to do different things. So, I think to sum it all up, and I know, Doug, we're kind of running low on time. There's plenty of opportunity. There's plenty of support from governments. There's plenty of support from accelerators. There's plenty of support from firms. And, Asia should be definitely top of mind for anybody that's looking to do business outside of their home country. Thanks, Doug.
Matthew Kyle from We Connect. Definitely connect to him if you're doing business in Asia. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
We're going to shift over to Latin America now. Ricardo, are you still there? I know you're at dinner.
Yeah, hello to everybody.
Ricardo
Yes,
Vanilla is somebody who actually has some ties to not just business, but he's our our executive director for Global Chamber in Buenos Aires. But he's also connected to Global Ties, and you've been on the board of that for many years. I think the only international person that's on that board, at least you were in the past.
Yeah,
We
that's right,
don't have
first
much
in
time,
America.
Ricardo, but could you give us a kind of a snippet of what you're seeing in Latin America?
Well, I would say that first of all, I'm very honored to be here, and thank you for being there. Let me talk. Not Latin America is a big area, so I would say there's Mike Patterson here with us. Perhaps he can explain more about Mexico and Central America. But let me talk a little bit about what is called the South Cone, the ABC first. Argentina, Brazil, and Chile, the ABC. The sum of their territories together are almost the same than the United States of America and Mexico together. And if we add Paraguay and Uruguay to correctly complete what is called the South Cone, we would cover the entire surface of Central America as well. But only 280 million people, and most of them concentrated in the few main cities. So there is room, a lot of it, and rivers, on both the Atlantic coast and the Pacific coast, from the tropic to Antarctica, from penguins and whales to alligators and pumas, from beautiful beaches to huge mountains and ski stations. Not even talk about cows. There are more cows than inhabitants, with a huge quantity of current and even more potential arable land. Minerals are everywhere, including those really strategic. Huge reserves of gas and oil, both traditional and shale. One of the biggest reserves of lithium that can make Elon Musk himself to dream about them. Just an additional note for people looking for a beautiful retirement place. In Argentina, you have a wonderful locations with European and American-like landscapes and architecture, European food, European-like healthcare, and American-like infrastructure. All that for only 25% of the cost you have in the US. That's right, I said it right. For the cost of living, you divide everything in the US 4 or 5 times. Thank you very much, guys.
Sorry about that. Mike Patterson, you were referred to, you know Ricardo.
I know Ricardo.
Hey, Ricardo, you're amazing. You guys met together, I think, at your office or somewhere. What would you like to say about Mexico? Because you've got one of the things that really impresses me about you, and there's so many things, but you're involved with business everywhere, but you're really a Mexico expert as well.
I love Mexico. I lived in Mexico 9 years. After a year in Costa Rica, I lived out in León, Guanajuato, donde la vida no vale nada. Y luego, and then in Mexico City, 2 different times, once without my kids and then went back with my kids. And so part of my heart is there. In my wallet, I'm trying to get my Mexican residency. Eventually, I'll have a passport for Mexico. But I want to talk about Mexico, which I love. You know, there's 126 million people and a $1.3 trillion economy just to the south of us there. Is it any wonder out of the 8.2 billion that we exported according to that school to the south of us there? I'm sorry, I'm a Sun Devil twice. But that school to the south of us there in Tucson, I think there's a school down there. They said that there was 8.2 billion that came out of Arizona, and 34% of that in 2021 went to Mexico of our exports. So this is an important trading partner. Raise your hand if you have something to do with that trade with Mexico. All of you, right? I mean, oh, look at that. You know, so I don't need to tell too much about this, except it's a great trading partner. And by the way, Mexico, if not, is way up there with the top 5 countries in the world that have the most trade agreements, free trade agreements with other countries. So it's a great trade partner to have in your portfolio to be trading with, because it is a great gateway to Europe and to other places in the world. And I would add to his ABC list, in my office, we're doing quite a bit with Colombia, Peru, as well as the ABC he mentioned, and some with Costa Rica. But the big dominant party is Mexico. And I would be remiss, I need to invite up our honored guest, the Consul Mendoza Yescas from here, which last Friday night, we had a big party down at City Hall, and this is many years we've been doing this, but he gets up and he did the best show on earth that I've seen of all the consuls there of over the years, waving that Mexican flag with a lot of energy, so much so he was sweating down. I mean, in fact, they were having to wipe it off because he was sweating. But it was Viva Mexico, Viva, Viva Hidalgo, Viva, and Viva Morelos, Viva. And sitting with him is Jimena, who you need to know if you're going to do anything with the consulate. And she is right hand for trade events and for events like the Grito. So come on up. But I also want to wave at me, Jaime, right here. This is Jaime Millan. We've hired a Mexican lawyer in our firm's office in Phoenix. I've been working with him for years in Mexico, but we had to bring him up and get him right in our office so that he could help get all that done, because it's really exploding for us. All yours, Mr. Counsel.
Thank you. I'm happy I don't have to say. I'm happy I don't have to say any numbers, because already all those numbers were said by Michael. Thank you, Michael. I would like to invite Jimena also here. Jimena Sotres, can you come with me? We have a very important department or an area in the consulate, which is the Economic Promotion Department. And in the last 3 years, we have invested so much effort in order to have an organized department. Since Phoenix, is booming, is becoming very, very important for the U.S. and it's a very key point of contact for many business people, but also the relationship that Arizona has with Mexico, it's crucial for the lives of a lot of people in the Amiga region. We have a trade, as you know, trade exchange of more than $17 billion. We share a lot of things. Not just cultural, family ties, but economic. The economies of Mexico and Arizona are intertwined. So that's why this consulate, in specific, this consulate of Mexico in Phoenix is very important. We have 5 consulates in Arizona, by the way. That's because the Mexican population that we have it's quite large. We have one in Tucson, which is a very important city also in southern Arizona. We have one in Nogales, which is very important as well, because we have the Mariposa port of entry, and a lot of produce that comes from Mexico to the U.S. comes from that specific port of entry. We have Douglas, we have Yuma, and the plans to improve, to invest on those port of entries on both sides are on their way, and actually there's budgets on both sides of the border. Well, the 2 countries, Mexico and the U.S., have these plans, these projects in order to improve those ports of entry, which are very important for the exchange of goods and products. By the way, I would like Jimena to say something about this department that she heads in the consulate. She has organized or armed a very good team, not just in economic promotion, but also in tourism affairs. We promote the tourism to Mexico. We have a very successful newsletter that we deliver to more than 4,000 economic players in both sides of the border. It's in English. We promote Mexico, the investment to Mexico, the tourism to Mexico, but also we give a voice to our Arizona's partners. And by the way, you haven't written.
If you're not receiving that, make sure you give her your card and get on that list. It's a great newsletter.
And also, we would like to have your participation soon, Michael. We have this, and I understood the message, Doug. I know I have to be very brief, but I would like to invite you also the next Friday to a forum where we are organized on specific topics of the USMCA about manufacturing. Actually, is going to take place, I think, here in Thunderbird. If Gazal help us with that. We will have here in Phoenix the National Convention of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So then, taking advantage of that, we will have some leaders of the chamber here in Phoenix, and then we are organizing with the council, organizing this forum about the USMCA, and we will have to touch very specific topics like manufacturing in Mexico, by the way, because now Mexico is the manufacture is getting cheaper, and so we think it's of higher quality than the Chinese, and then all this relocation of the manufacturers, we have to take care of this and then be informed about what's going on these new trends. And Jimena, if you'd like to explain a little bit about the economic promotion that we do.
Yeah. Thank you, Consul, and thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. And yes, the Consul mentioned, I had the economic promotion office in the Mexican consulate in Phoenix. So if you have any question, you can approach us and we can further support you. If you want to invest in Mexico, find a supplier, or other issue, we can help you. There are several tools that you can use to find information about Mexico, like Data Mexico. Also, we have the Economic Development Atlas to invest in Mexico. But if you have any specific question, just let me know and we will support you. Thank you.
Viva Mexico!
Gracias. Thank you.
So we're gonna start to wrap up. Christian, I need you up here. Laura, if you could come up, and Doc, if you could come up. So there is a video on the screen that I want to play, and I don't know, James, if when I hit it it'll play, but I'm going to try.
Hi, I'm Herbie Hancock, and I'd like to congratulate Doc Jones and the International Jazz Day AZ Foundation for their great work bringing International Jazz Day celebrations to the state of Arizona. On behalf of UNESCO and the Thelonious Monk Institute of Jazz, I wish you success with your events at the Mesa Arts Center and the Arizona State Capitol, as well as the planned festival in Alamos, Mexico. Most of all, have a happy International Jazz Day.
What do you think of that, huh? Doc, what are we going to see upstairs at 6 o'clock?
Okay, first of all, thank you, Doug. And to make it really short, Herbie Hancock was nominated 20 times and has won over 15 Grammys, so let's give him a round of applause. He was able to bring us together with United Nations, and 196 countries had some type of jazz event going on this year, and next year is growing. And I happen to just be the Goodwill Ambassador for Arizona. So if we come upstairs, we need at least all of you to stop in and have one drink. We're going to play some live jazz for you upstairs, so stick around. And we got some more things that I want to talk to you about maybe when we get upstairs. Thank you.
A round of applause for Doc. Ghazal, could you come up as well? So we totally missed out on Africa. So Mel Sanderson, she's been texting me saying, "I'm going to make it easy for you," and she dumped out. Which is really bad. But the good news is we have Laura. How many know Laura? Many. So Laura's is from Kenya originally, is involved with real estate, and she's back and she's joined Global Chamber. What would you like to say? I'm not even going to try to control things, because now you kind of see my world every single day of my life, which makes me, white-haired, but very happy. Laura, you're amazing. What would you like to share?
How much time do I have?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. This is for Mel and everybody else that walked away. My name is Laura Mwaniki. I grew up in Kenya. I grew up in international business. My dad worked for Atlas Copco and later on for Total, French company, in my pre-teen years. During my teen years, I grew up on a flower farm, and we exported fresh cut flowers to Netherlands. My dad was the first indigenous Kenyan to export directly to the Aalsmeer market. Right after that, after I finished high school, I went to college in Egerton. I got my bachelor's degree there in ag economics. And then I worked for a Jewish company. First, I worked for a Dutch company selling agricultural inputs to the farms in Kenya. Now, if you know anything about Kenya, horticulture is the second largest export commodity. So right after that, I worked for the largest agricultural input distributor in East Africa, a Jewish company, an Israeli company. And they sponsored me to come here. So that exposure really is part of what Doug is really doing. Introducing the rest of the world to people locally so business gets easier. So when I came to Tucson, I'm a wildcat. I came to Tucson with $800 in my pocket and a guarantee that I will do well. I self-sponsored myself 100% with 2 master's degrees, worked for 15 years as an economist. That's how I met Hank and everybody else that knows me. I worked at the U of A with Bruce Wright as in the Economic Development Office, driving policy research for policymakers. I can't tell you who I worked for, non-disclosures. And then I worked for Arizona, the MAG as a regional economist for a short while. And I helped advise the Economic Development Office, committee. But my work was really in the back end, providing the data and the research that drives the policies. So I've worked with GPEC, I've worked with ACA, Marissa, Hank, city members on FDI, trade. When I was at the U of A, I was the expert on border economies, the trans-border economies, how to grow the border ports of entry, worked on transportation import and infrastructure projects for the governor's office on projects such as those. So I believe that there's so much connectivity with what Doug's doing. My focus now is to focus on Africa. So I took a break the last 7 years, and I've been doing what I call my give back mission, working as an agent with local communities to help them first get financial literacy, grow wealth, and find stability through investments, and mostly through affiliates, connecting them and putting them in the right hands. The other thing I do is I also have a consulting company called Value Crest, and I have loose connections all over Africa with various partners in South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Sudan, Ethiopia, that if I needed anything in business, I could reach out to. So that's the network I'm trying to work with. My best friend just got elected in Kenya. The elections just ended as the governor of my hometown. So I'm hoping to help drive help assistance through nonprofits, including through Project Cure. So there's so much opportunity. You don't have to be a big company. You can be an individual. You can be part of a nonprofit. Mel is really the expert at the multi-corporate level because she worked with Freeport-McMoran and has a really huge bio at that level. So I would default all that large corporate aspects to her. But I really do want to welcome you to Africa. When people hear Africa, they think of a kid with flies all over their face and wildlife. But really, think about it. I think one of the princes met their current wife in Kenya on a safari. I sold to the largest farms in Kenya that were not owned by Africans. Think about multi-million-dollar opportunities right there. And we're also the largest exporter of tea and coffee all over the world. So there's so much opportunity. I just want to welcome you through Doug to connect with Derek in Kenya.
Derek Bonga. We're going to put together another program. We've done 4 programs this month already on Africa. We'll bottle them up, including Derek, which he said he might be, it's like 3 in the morning there or something. He said he might be up. And if you're hearing us, Derek, I am so sorry, but we will get your video out. Absolutely. Thank you.
Asante sana. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we go to the raffle, could you come up, please? So Ghazal is our last speaker before we go upstairs, and then we're going to have a little bit of a giveaway, and I'm so sorry that we ran over. She's the most important speaker because she's from Thunderbird. She's a Thunderbird graduate. She works with the dean and the team here at Thunderbird, does amazing work all around the world, including the 13 hub cities and another 12 or 13 that are going to be added. What would you like to share today?
Thank you very much, Doug. First of all, let me start with thank you for your partnership. We are very honored and proud to have that partnership, along with many other partners that I see sitting here. Consul General of Mexico, Consul General of Ecuador, esteemed members of Diplomatic Corps. I really like how it actually came together. We started from regions, and I love to kind of like think that now we can wrap it up with a more global approach. Thunderbird has been training and educating leaders of the new generation leaders for 75 years. We claim to be the pioneers of looking at education from a very global aspect. Our global communities consist of our wonderful students. We are at 70% global students right now, our diverse staff. I don't know, you have met my colleagues probably before the program starts, and also our wonderful diverse alumni. All through this 76 years of history. We are proud to have stayed on top of the global issues. So the consistent theme for us has always been promoting cross-cultural communication, focusing on similarities rather than differences, and kind of bringing everyone together. Now, what we are focusing, with all due respect to that, and we're still very loyal to that, we are focusing on fourth industrial revolution right now, sustainability, especially SDG 17, for those of you who are kind of familiar with those SDGs, that is pulling people together and creating partnerships. And the flagship of that partnership, I can claim, is Phoenix Global Rising, where we are paying back to the community in the Valley and the city of Phoenix, who have welcomed us when we moved our campus here. We are hoping to provide resources and support in every level that is within our reach for our local partners. Obviously, we have a perfect pool of talent here, global students from different skill set, and also like the programs we offer. And apart from that, the wonderful building that we have, and where we would be more than happy to welcome our partners for this great events that they would do, and just like basically serve our community. Thank you, Doug. I think I stayed within the time.
Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? Thunderbird questions? How many Thunderbird grads here? Thunderbird grads? Oh, not too many. Okay. Because we have some deals coming up for the spring.
Yeah, I mean, we have current students also. We have Omar here, Dushi Mays, sitting here helping us, both of them. We have Jesse here who had to leave. So yeah, we had more. than this.
Amazing opportunities. If you could stay here for a second, Deborah, could you come up? And we're going to wrap up this section. However, there's one thing that we wanted to do. Because the International Day of Peace is something that Deborah's been involved with, and she's she's much better with microphones than me. You've given gifts away, like gift baskets and things like that. So we're going to give gifts here, but we don't have a raffle. We have questions for you. So the winner is going to be the people who are able to be the best in this audience. Who's the best in this audience? Who deserves something? So first of all, there are several things here. So this is the first gift. It's a book called Dominate Your Market, and it's one of if you don't know Gloria Peterson, you should know her. She started the book author series at Global Chamber about 2 years ago. We had about 20 book authors, and now we're like near 70 book authors, and every month we talk to book authors, and this fellow, Mike Peterson, is in Chandler. I never heard of him before, but he found out about Global Chamber, and he and Hank pulled kind of a dirty trick on me. However, I still like him and I like Hank. And he wrote a book for alpha males that are leaders in business. And I thought, alpha males, okay, well, that's probably not me. I don't know, but it could be Hank. But I'd like to give this book away to somebody who's an alpha male and a leader, and that would be Consul General Yesko. Dominate your market, for Mexico, and anybody that you know. Feel free to read that and let us know what you think, because it really has helped me, and especially as I'm writing a book. So the gifts we have, come over, Christian. So Christian Aguirre is the Global Chamber Executive Director in Hermosillo. So Hermosillo, because of the Sister Cities program for Phoenix, was one of our first chapters. And so it turned out, as many of the chapters around the world, this crazy idea of 525, it's not always the first person we choose that continues. The first person we chose was a guy named, and who you know, right?
Luis Nunez. Yes, Luis Nunez.
Luis Nunez, who's the son of
Dr. Luis Nunez, who was the delegate of economy in the state of Sonora.
Father's amazing. The son is amazing. And he started the chapter, and I actually went to Hermosillo for that chapter, and I had dinner with the family. It was amazing. Well, he's a young man, and he's probably not the long-term person. So somehow we found Christian. How did we find you?
Well, yes, actually, thanks to Luis. Luis invited me to this opportunity. I've always loved international business. So the moment I hear from Luis the invitation to be a part of Global Chamber, I told him, give me 24 hours, give me the webpage to the Global Chamber, I'll check it out. And by the next day, I was hooked. I wanted to be a part of the Global Chamber. I wanted to be into this, and I'm very excited. I'm past my 5th year being part of the Global Chamber, and there's a lot of many more things to do.
So like London, we've had 3 people, and the third person, she's amazing. She's unbelievable. And actually, women tend to do this job better, except for Christian. And there's a lot of really good men too, so it doesn't matter of gender. So Deborah, here's what we're going to do. I know we didn't talk through all of the details here, but we do have a couple of other gifts. We have True Salt from
the Sea of Cortez. True Salt is an interesting story. It's a story of founders from Phoenix, and I'm actually a partner in True Salt, and we bring the best salt from the Sea of Cortez into Phoenix, and we get this finalized product. And we are very proud to say that 2 chefs who were named for the James Byrd Award this year, they're actually located here in Arizona. Mr. Don Guerra, who's also a proud partner of Global Chamber in Tucson, and also Chris Bianco, best restaurateur. So we're very proud to say that they use True Salt.
Would you like? Yeah. So here's the test. So two questions. First question is, the person who's lived in the most countries gets the gift. And then there'll be a second one. So how many have lived in 2 countries? Raise your hand. Lived in 2 countries. And, okay, that's actually pretty large. How about 3 countries? How many have lived in 3 countries? It's the same people raising their hands. What's going on here? How many have lived in 4 countries? 4 countries. Now it's starting to whittle down. Winnie's in the running here. 4 countries? Really? Unbelievable. 5 countries. How many have lived in 5 countries? Hank Marshall? Really? And what's your name back there? And what countries have you lived in? Oh my God. Wow. Fantastic, fantastic. So that's great. So I think it's down to 2. So have either of you been able to go to 6 countries? Have you lived in 6? You're the winner. You're the winner. So I think she's a True Salt winner. What do you think? So you get to win the True Salt. Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. Oh, here's a fellow who's claiming 7. Is that true?
Pablo. Yeah.
Juan Pablo? Okay, come on up, Juan Pablo.
Yeah, we have more.
And how many countries have you lived in?
7.
How many? 6 countries, and you've lived in how many?
We can count it.
You can't count it?
I can count it.
Yeah, okay. So would you...
I name it if you want.
Okay, which ones?
Okay. I'm original from Ecuador.
Okay.
That's one.
You want to talk in the microphone?
Oh, okay.
Where do you live now?
Here in Arizona.
Okay.
State of Arizona.
Fantastic.
Okay.
That's another country, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's a republic, sort of.
Yeah.
And it's great to be here. Very nice weather, even though hot. I enjoyed very much. So I lived in, I'm original from Ecuador. That's one.
Okay.
Then I lived in Costa Rica.
Okay. 2.
Somebody told me, you live in Costa Rica. Okay, that's 2. I live in Colombia.
3.
That's 3. I live in Brazil.
4.
That's 4. I live in Venezuela.
Okay, that's a country.
Yeah, it is a country. Very nice country, except for Tanzania. But this is not politics, you know. Okay, so I live in Canada.
Okay.
And finally, I live in United States.
Fantastic.
That's where I've lived.
So both of you will get an award. So we have the True Salt, Sea Salt, Smoked Salt, and sea salt again, or the natural sea salt. Which would you get to choose? Which one would you like, the box or the smaller ones?
First, like in my culture, the elder we give respect notes to elder. So first we should select that different.
Oh, you're very kind, but ladies first, all the time.
In his culture, it's ladies first.
But in my culture, young never. Here we go, culture.
Culture, don't you? What, you can't live with it. You can't live without it. What do you think, Deborah? Would you like to?
Since she's the lady, I would say you would honor her request. You get to choose.
Definitely, I cannot say anything. I'm contrary of what you're saying. I will assume that I'm a gentleman and I will follow the instruction of the ladies.
Fantastic. Which one would you like, 3 or this? Okay, it's great.
Very kind.
And so now, if you don't mind staying, one last thing to give. Oh, one last thing to give. You should explain it, because I haven't acquired the taste yet for it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go.
Okay, first of all, I want to give a shout out to 2 of our members from Hermosillo. This is Necodex, Jesus Arturo, for joining us, and also Elliot Pineda from BI Inform. They made a trip from Hermosillo to join us here, and they are great success stories for the Global Chamber in Hermosillo. So I just wanted to mention them. And okay, let's get to what is Bacanora. Does any of you know what is Bacanora? Bacanora is a drink from the state of Sonora. Originally, they call it also the dangerous cousin for tequila, right? So it's something it's a smoky flavor. It's made from a special kind of agave plant called Angustifolia how. That's the technical name of the plant. And this product was produced in high quantities in the state of Sonora back in the early 1900s. There was a prohibition then around the year 1930 approximately, until the year 1992. Then producers were able again to start producing bacanora in the state, and it is a beverage that is starting to grow back in popularity and gaining space. So, enough said with that. How would you like to, Doug, how we can give away bacanora?
Every global triber has counted the number of countries you've visited. So this is a contest of countries you've visited, not lived in. So how many of you have visited 10 or more countries? 10 or more, okay? And how many 15 or more? 20 or more countries. Okay, it's getting down to 5 or so. What number am I? 25? How about 25? Anybody 25? Just Colin? Colin's the only, oh, and Kelly Moore. Kelly Moore over 25. How many?
He said he's
Have you been drinking bacanora?
He's just thirsty.
Colin, come on up. Kelly, come on up. Is anybody else over 25? Nobody else? Okay, come on up. Could you come up? What was that? How many has it been? 54 countries for Colin. Could you explain who you are and what you do?
Thank you. I'm with the U.S. Commercial Service. We're at the back there. We have a table. So I'm an international trade specialist based here in Phoenix. So originally from the UK, of course, Europeans, we travel a lot in Europe. I moved out to Asia straight from school, lived there for about 12 years, traveled around Asia before moving to the US, and then I covered Latin America from the US, so I traveled throughout Latin America as well.
Yeah, and that's a Japanese accent you have there.
Yes, right? Northeastern part, no, from the west of England, close to Bath.
Okay, very good. Can you beat 54? No way. Okay. So you drink a lot of clear fluids yourself, so we're going to give this one to Colin. Oh, okay. Have you ever had bacanora before? Thank you. Congratulations. That's the end of an amazing show. Anybody have anything else, parting comments? Because the next thing is, please come up to see Doc upstairs. He's got a band up there. Come on up and hear Doc. He's got some things to play, obviously, and also it's going to be a great concert. So, Debra, you get the final word. You're amazing. Thank you for pulling us together. How about a round of applause for Debra? And she's saying, this guy is crazy. Like, what in the world? Any parting comments? This is certainly a lot different than you're normally involved with.
Well, I encourage everybody when you go back to work to ask somebody that you don't know, maybe engage a conversation about culture and listen to them a little bit and just learn something new, and then perhaps share something back and just watch the energy on how the energy and the conversation changes. That's it.
Very great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. See you upstairs.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's so chaotic.
Okay. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
You guys want to get a quick photo before we